The day you stop caring is the day everything shifts. Not just your energy, but the entire gravitational field between you and her. You stop analyzing every text. You stop replaying conversations looking for hidden meanings. You stop building your schedule around the possibility of her attention. And something strange happens. Something you didn't expect, didn't plan for, couldn't have predicted even if you tried. She notices. Not immediately, not dramatically, but like a compass needle sensing magnetic disruption. She feels the shift. The man who used to orbit her world suddenly has his own axis. The attention she could summon with a smile now flows elsewhere. And that absence, that quiet, unannounced withdrawal of your emotional investment, does something to her psychology that presence never could. It haunts her. You've seen it happen. The friend who finally walked away from a woman who kept him in limbo, only to have her blow up his phone 3 weeks later. The colleague who stopped chasing after years of rejection, suddenly becoming the object of her curiosity. The brother who moved on completely, only to find her watching his life from the sidelines, commenting on posts she used to ignore, asking mutual friends about him with a casualness that barely masks her obsession. This isn't a game. This isn't manipulation. This is psychology. And once you understand what's really happening beneath the surface, you'll never look at desire, attraction, or your own power the same way again. Here's what most men don't realize. A woman doesn't obsess over a man because he stops caring. She obsesses because his absence reveals a reality she wasn't prepared to face. For months, maybe years, your attention was a constant. Reliable, available, renewable. She could access it whenever she needed validation, whenever her own emotional tank ran empty, whenever the world made her question her worth. Your care was her mirror. And when you remove that mirror, she doesn't just miss the reflection. She loses the emotional infrastructure she built around your devotion. She has to face the version of herself that exists without your gaze. The one who isn't pursued, isn't prioritized, isn't the center of someone's relentless focus. That version terrifies her, not because she loved you. Let me be real with you. Not because she suddenly realized your value, but because your indifference disrupts the story she was telling herself about her own desirability. A man who stops caring is a man who's no longer playing the role she assigned him. And when actors leave the stage mid-performance, the entire production collapses. You weren't just a person to her, you were proof. Proof that she could command attention, proof that she had power, proof that even when she gave little, someone would give everything. Your care was her security blanket, and you just ripped it away without warning. And that's the part that breaks her composure. But there's another reason, a deeper one, that explains why your absence becomes her obsession. It's rooted in something psychologists call the scarcity principle, but not in the way you think. When you were caring, when you were attentive, when you were available, you were abundant, predictable. She knew exactly where you stood. Your feelings were mapped territory. There was no mystery, no challenge, no hunt. She could access you emotionally whenever she wanted, which meant she never had to want you urgently. Desire doesn't live in certainty. Desire lives in the gap between knowing and not knowing. The moment you stop caring, you become scarce. Not physically. Scarcity isn't about presence. You become emotionally unavailable, psychologically unreachable. And suddenly, the man she could read like an open book becomes a closed chapter she can't stop trying to reopen. You see it in the way she starts reaching out. Casual texts that feel anything but casual. Hey, how have you been? With a dozen revisions behind it. Likes on old photos she never noticed before. Comments that seem innocent but are carefully designed to pull you back into orbit. She'll engineer coincidental run-ins, ask mutual friends about your life, stalk your social media with the intensity of a private investigator. And here's the twist. She doesn't even know why she's doing it. If you asked her directly, she'd deny it. I was just being friendly. I was just checking in. I don't even think about him anymore. But her behavior betrays her. The frequency, the timing, The way she monitors your life for signs of someone new, someone else receiving the attention she once dismissed. She's not in love with you. She's in love with the version of herself that existed when you cared. Let me break down what's really happening inside her psychology, layer by layer. Because this is where men get blindsided. Layer 1. She notices your absence. Maybe she doesn't say anything. Maybe she convinces herself she's relieved. Finally, he's giving me space. Good, I don't have to deal with his feelings anymore. I can breathe now. She tells herself your attention was a burden she's glad to be free of. But underneath that narrative, something else stirs. Layer 2. She starts testing. A late-night text. A vague post clearly meant for you to see. A story update designed to provoke a reaction. She's not consciously manipulating. She's checking. Is your indifference real? Is this permanent? Or is this just a phase? A temporary withdrawal she can reverse with the right signal. When you don't respond the way you used to, when your replies are short or non-existent, when you don't take the bait she's dangling, her confusion deepens. The script has changed. You're not following the pattern she relied on. Layer 3. Panic sets in. Not dramatic, not visible, but neurological. Her brain registers your withdrawal as a threat to her social value. Evolutionary psychology explains this perfectly. Humans are wired to fear rejection because for most of human history, rejection from the tribe meant death. She's not worried about dying, but her nervous system doesn't know that. It just knows that someone who valued her highly has recalibrated their assessment, and that recalibration feels like loss. Layer 4, the darkest truth. Her obsession isn't about wanting you back, it's about restoring the power dynamic. She doesn't want the relationship. She wants the certainty that she could have the relationship if she wanted it. She needs to know that your care is still accessible, still dormant, still waiting for her signal to reignite. Your indifference is a door she can't open. And every closed door becomes an obsession to someone who's used to having access. This is where the psychological deep dive gets fascinating, because what's happening here isn't unique to romantic dynamics. It's a fundamental principle of human desire. We obsess over what we can't control. Think about it. When you can predict someone's behavior, when you know exactly how they'll respond, when their emotions are an open book you've already read, they become background noise. Comfortable, safe, boring. But when someone becomes unpredictable, when their emotional landscape shifts into unknown territory, they become interesting. Your caring was predictable. Your indifference is a mystery. She's replaying conversations now, searching for clues she missed. What changed? When did it change? Was there a specific moment? Did she push too far? Did someone else enter the picture? The uncertainty gnaws at her because humans are pattern-seeking creatures, and you just disrupted every pattern she relied on to make sense of your dynamic. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. When you cared, the dynamic felt complete. She knew where she stood. She knew your feelings. The story had a clear narrative. But when you stopped caring, you left the story unfinished. And unfinished stories haunt us. She'll start romanticizing moments she previously dismissed. That time you drove across the city just to see her suddenly feels significant. The way you remembered small details about her life suddenly feels rare. The emotional labor you performed without asking for anything in return suddenly feels irreplaceable. Nostalgia is a liar. It edits reality like a film director cutting all the scenes that don't serve the narrative. She's not remembering you accurately. She's remembering the version of you that makes her current loss feel more profound. Because if what she lost wasn't valuable, then what does that say about her judgment? What does that say about the time she spent with you? What does that say about her ability to recognize worth when it's standing right in front of her? Your indifference forces her to confront uncomfortable questions about herself, and rather than sit with those questions, she redirects her discomfort into obsession over you. And here's what men learn too late but never forget. The exact behaviors that pushed her away when you cared become magnetic when you stop. When you cared, your availability felt needy. Now it feels like opportunity lost. When you cared, your attention felt suffocating. Now it feels like validation she's been denied. When you cared, your emotional investment felt like pressure. Now it feels like value she underestimated. Nothing about you changed. Your worth was always there. Your qualities were always present. But her perception shifted the moment your energy withdrew. And that shift reveals a brutal truth about desire. It's not about who you are. It's about how you make someone feel about themselves. When you cared, you made her feel wanted. But wanted isn't the same as valuable. Wanted can feel like obligation. Wanted can feel like someone trying to claim ownership of your attention. Wanted can feel like a burden when it comes without conditions. But when you stopped caring, you made her feel uncertain. And uncertainty makes people question their value in ways certainty never does. You see this play out in real time. The woman who ignored your messages now responds within minutes. The one who was too busy suddenly has time. The one who needed space now resents the distance. Her entire framework for understanding your dynamic has shattered, and she's scrambling to rebuild it with you back at the center. Not because she wants you, because she wants to know she could have you. There's a moment every man experiences during this shift, and it's equal parts empowering and devastating. It's the moment you realize she's more present in your absence than she ever was in your presence. She's commenting on your posts now. She's asking your friends about you. She's noticing who you're with, what you're doing, how you're moving through the world without her. She's paying more attention to your life now than she did when she was part of it. And that realization hits differently, because it confirms what you suspected all along. Your care was never the problem. Your availability was. Your emotional investment wasn't too much. It was too visible, too certain, too guaranteed. She didn't need to pursue what she already possessed. But here's where smart men make a choice that defines everything that comes next. Some men see her sudden interest as validation. They interpret her attention as proof that she's finally seeing their worth. They let her back in, hoping this time will be different. They convince themselves that her obsession means she's changed, that she's grown, that she finally understands what she lost. And within weeks, sometimes days, they're back where they started, caring more, giving more, investing more, and her interest evaporates just as quickly as it appeared. Because the chase is over, the mystery is solved, the door she couldn't open is wide open again, and there's nothing left to obsess over. The cycle repeats. But the smart man, the man who's learned this lesson through experience, through pain, through the brutal education that comes from giving everything to someone who gave nothing back, he makes a different choice. He stays indifferent, not out of revenge, not to manipulate her, not to win some psychological game, but because he's genuinely moved on. Because his indifference wasn't a tactic, it was a transformation. He stopped caring because he finally understood a truth that rewrites everything. Her obsession is about her, not you. She's not obsessing because you're irreplaceable. She's obsessing because you're unavailable. And the moment you become available again, the moment you let her access your attention, your energy, your care, the obsession dies. Because obsession isn't love. Obsession is the emotional response to a perceived threat to one's ego. She's not trying to win you back. She's trying to restore her sense of power. She doesn't want the relationship. She wants the reassurance that she still has influence over your emotional world. And once you give her that reassurance, she's done. This is the trap men fall into over and over. They interpret her renewed interest as a sign of growth, of realization, of change. They think, maybe she finally sees me. They think, maybe this time she'll appreciate what I bring. They think, maybe her obsession means she's ready. But her obsession is the clearest sign that she's not ready. Because someone who genuinely values you doesn't need to lose you to realize your worth. Someone who genuinely wants you doesn't need the threat of your absence to spark their interest. Real love doesn't require indifference to activate. What happens next depends entirely on the choice the man makes. And this is where the final, most powerful layer of this dynamic reveals itself. If he stays indifferent, Not cold, not cruel, but genuinely detached, one of two things happens. Option 1, she escalates. Her obsession intensifies. She reaches out more frequently, more desperately. She might even confess feelings she never had, make promises she won't keep, paint a future she has no intention of building. She's not lying deliberately. She genuinely believes what she's saying in the moment. But what she's really doing is trying to pull you back into the role you used to play. The man who cares more, who gives more, who centers her in his world. And if you refuse that role, if you maintain your detachment, her obsession will eventually burn out. She'll move on to someone else whose attention she can capture, someone else who will provide the validation she's seeking, and you'll become a story she tells herself. The one who got away, the one she should have chosen, the one who represents a road not taken. But even that story is a lie, because she never wanted the road. She just wanted the option to choose it. Option 2, she fades. Her attempts to reconnect become less frequent. Her obsession diminishes as she realizes your indifference is permanent. She'll tell herself she's over it, that she's moved on, that she never really cared anyway. And in a strange way, she'll be right. She never cared about you the way you cared about her. She cared about how you made her feel about herself. And once that feeling is no longer accessible, she has no reason to stay. Either way, her obsession was never about you. It was always about her ego, her sense of control, her need to know she still had power over someone who once gave her everything. But here's what this teaches you, and this is the part that changes everything. The moment you stop caring, you reclaim something far more valuable than her attention. You reclaim your energy, your focus, your sense of self that was slowly eroding under the weight of unrequited investment. You stop building your emotional world around someone who barely acknowledged its existence. And that reclamation, that quiet, unannounced rebuilding of your life without her at the center, is the most powerful form of self-respect a man can practice. Because when you stop caring, you're not closing a door. You're recognizing that the door was never truly open. She gave you glimpses, brief moments of possibility, enough warmth to keep you tethered, but never enough to build anything real. And you stayed because you kept hoping those glimpses would become something more. But they never do. When a woman makes you work this hard for her attention, when she makes you question your worth, when she keeps you in a state of constant uncertainty about where you stand, she's showing you exactly who she is. And the smartest thing you can do is believe her. Your indifference isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's the natural response of a man who's finally stopped negotiating with someone who never intended to meet him halfway. It's the moment you stop pouring yourself into a vessel with no bottom and start investing in something that actually holds value. Yourself. Smart men understand this on a level that goes beyond logic. They understand it viscerally, through experience, through the painful education that comes from caring too much for someone who cared too little. They've lived through the cycle. They've watched their attention be taken for granted. They've seen how their availability became a weakness in her eyes, and they've learned. When you finally stop caring, when you genuinely detach from the outcome, when her opinion of you no longer shapes your sense of self, something miraculous happens. You become untouchable. Not in an arrogant way, not in a cold way, but in a way that radiates self-possession. You move through life with a centeredness that can't be disrupted by her games, her tests, her sudden bursts of interest designed to pull you back in. And that centeredness is magnetic. It's magnetic to other women who recognize a man who knows his worth. It's magnetic to opportunities that require focus and discipline. It's magnetic to the version of your life you were meant to build but kept postponing because you were too busy investing in someone else's. Your energy recalibrates from needy to needed, from chasing to being chosen, from proving your value to embodying it. And here's the cruelest irony. The moment you become that man, the moment you truly stop caring, she'll want you more than she ever did. But by then, you won't care. Not because you're bitter, not because you're punishing her, but because you've moved so far beyond the version of yourself that needed her validation, that going back feels like regression. You've tasted freedom. You've experienced what it's like to build a life that isn't dependent on someone else's approval. You've felt the power of investing your energy into things that actually grow instead of dynamics that drain. And once you've felt that, her obsession becomes background noise. The final truth is this: you don't win by making her obsess over you. You win by becoming the kind of man who doesn't need her to. You win by building a life so compelling, so fulfilling, so aligned with your purpose that her attention becomes irrelevant. You win by reaching a place where her obsession is nothing more than confirmation of what you already know. You were always the prize. She just couldn't see it when you were standing right in front of her, and that's okay. Because her inability to see your worth has nothing to do with your value and everything to do with her capacity to recognize it. Some people are blind to gold because they're too busy chasing glitter. Some people can't appreciate depth because they're comfortable in shallow water. Some people will never value what you bring because they're too consumed with what they lack. And that's not your problem to fix. When you stop caring, you're not giving up. You're waking up. You're recognizing that the relationship, the dynamic, the entire connection was built on an imbalance that could never create anything sustainable. You were giving everything while she was rationing breadcrumbs and calling it generosity. That's not love. That's not even like. That's exploitation dressed up as connection. And the moment you walk away, the moment you genuinely stop caring, you take back the power you gave away. You stop letting her indifference shape your self-esteem. You stop letting her intermittent attention dictate your emotional state. You stop letting her opinion determine your worth. You become the author of your own story again. And in that story, she's no longer the main character. She's a chapter, a lesson, a reminder of what happens when you invest in people who aren't investing in you. So when she starts obsessing, when she starts reaching out, when she starts showing up in your life with renewed interest and barely concealed desperation, remember this: her obsession is not a reflection of your value increasing. It's a reflection of her control decreasing. She's not obsessed with who you are. She's obsessed with the fact that she can no longer manipulate your attention. And there's a profound difference. Don't confuse her obsession with her suddenly seeing the light. She's not seeing you. She's seeing the loss of her power over you, and she wants it back. Let her want. Let her obsess. Let her wonder. Let her replay every moment she dismissed your care. Let her regret every time she made you feel like your love was a burden. Let her sit with the reality that she had something real and chose to treat it like it was disposable. And while she's sitting with that, you keep building, you keep growing, you keep investing in the life you were meant to live. You become so focused on your purpose, so committed to your goals, so centered in your own power that her obsession becomes nothing more than a distant echo. Because the strongest version of you isn't the one fighting for her attention, it's the one who doesn't need it. That's when you realize you didn't stop caring to hurt her. You stopped caring to save yourself. And in that act of self-preservation, you became the man you were always meant to be. Unbothered, unshaken, untouchable. And once you become that man, you understand the most liberating truth of all. Her obsession was never the goal. Your freedom was,